All right, so I guess let's just get started. Welcome to the Society of Women Engineers presents Women in Science, and this is an event for CU BEEP. Everyone, my name is Wendy Shadler, and presenting with me is going to be Ritzwi and Huda. And then our panelists today are Nicolette, Sam, Anna, Agata, and Paige, and we will get to them talking about their lives, their experiences, and whatnot after this presentation. So let's just hop into maybe work. There we go. Just some history of women in science. So I don't know if you have had a lot of history lessons or even if your science classes, if it's been mentioned or if you've noticed, but there's a lot of men that have made these discoveries, and women only account for 7% of all the scientists who have made game-changing advances throughout history. And since the 1900s, almost 20% of the scientists born since then are women. So that's pretty cool. We want to keep seeing that growth. And many of these women have faced several obstacles throughout their careers and their lives, including those to various restrictions, humiliation, outdated traditions, and a lot of culture and prejudice, especially coming from our culture in the past, of course, and just all the prejudices that came across when England and all that came to America and we started making all of our own discoveries, expanding, and a lot has happened. I'm sorry, I'm nervous. So I wanted to start talking about some of the women who have made amazing discoveries, and one of these women is Agnes Pockels. She had been interested in science since childhood and really wanted to study physics. However, she had no access to universities and could only find information from scientific literature and through her younger brother, who was able to go to college. As a single woman, she looked after her sick parents in their home in Germany, and she carried out the household chores. And while doing this and working with oils and soaps and other household chemicals, she she noticed that there was a surface tension on the water. And through this, she devised an apparatus with which she could measure the surface tension. And in 1891, with the help of an English scientist named Lord Rayleigh, she published her first research paper on surface tension, and she continued to study surface phenomena and published several more scientific papers. Then moving on to Mary Anning. Her father died when she was 11. Her family was very poor. They struggled financially for most of their lives. And because she was a woman, she was not allowed to join the Geological Society of London and did not always receive credit for her discoveries. She felt very ill-used. But as a scientist, she kept always looking. She became a fossil hunter and a paleontologist, and she has become known worldwide for her finds in Jurassic marine fossil beds. She was the first one to discover the ichthyosaur skeleton and the plesiosaur skeletons, and so many more fossils that we had never even looked at before. And I think she's really cool. Moving on some more. This would be Ritzwi, if she's here.
She was texting me that she's having a hard time with her internet.
Thanks, Hannah. Okay, then I can hop on this. So Marie Curie is a physicist and a chemist, and she discovered radium and the element of polonium. And her research led to the creation of X-ray equipment and its use in World War I, which then led to the creation of X-rays in modern surgery today. And her daughter was also a scientist, and they jointly won the Nobel Prize with her husband for chemistry in 1935. Fun little fact. Grace Hopper was a computer scientist who attained the rank of Rear Admiral in the United States Navy. She was one of the first programmers of the Harvard MK1 computer in 1944 and invented the first compiler for computer programming language. She also popularized the concept of machine-independent programming languages and consequently paved the way to development of COBOL, which is one of the earliest high-level programming languages. She is also credited with originating the term bug to describe computer glitches, and very likely did originate debugging, which she carefully, this is a funny story, she carefully removed a moth that was interfering with the internal components of a computer. So that's where she got, there's a bug in the computer. That was funny. So on to Rachel Carson. She was a marine biologist, and she raised concerns regarding the effects of human activity upon the environment. And through this, she, driven by the demand for food, DDT was being used as an agricultural pesticide, resulting in the accumulation in foods and chains, and like this severely destroyed a lot of wildlife in the process of using DDT, because it is a contact poison, and it was used in World War II to prevent the spread of diseases by insects. Her research led into the banning of this chemical, and it also led into the formation of the Environmental Protection Agency. Rosalind Franklin, this story is a good one. So she was a physical chemist, and she used X-ray crystallography to produce images that provided insights to the structure of complex biological molecules. With this, she developed a technique that provided very high quality images, which pointed to the helical structure of DNA. This is an interesting story because in one of the photographs she took, it was of DNA, and this photograph was shown to James Watson, a geneticist who was also working on DNA with biophysicist Francis Crick. To James Watson, he recognized the distinctive X pattern, and that clearly indicated a helical structure for DNA. And Rosalind was unaware that the photograph, which was the result of her research, had been shown to James Watson. So her entire work led to the discovery of this, but she was unaccredited because someone else took her image and showed it to someone else. But because of her, we actually know what DNA looks like. And then Jocelyn Bell Burnell.
Hey, Wendy.
Yeah.
I think Ritsui's back, so if you want to
slow my roll. Ritsui,
yeah.
Are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry.
Okay, so we made it to this slide.
Awesome.
I will let you take over.
Cool. So I'll start talking about Jocelyn Bell Burnell. So Jocelyn Bell, supervisor, gave the name LGM-1, which stood for Little Green Men 1, to radio signals from a fixed point in the sky while she was completing her PhD. This observation revealed that the radiation beam of a neutron star, each pulse represents a single rotation of that star. So her supervisor received that Nobel Peace Prize, but she did not receive any credit for this because she was just a student at the time. Despite this, she received great distinction in her career. President of the Institute of Physics, she was also the president of the Royal Astronomical Society, and she also became the president of the Royal Society of Edinburgh. And then we have Edith Clark. So in 1918, Edith Clark became the first woman to earn an electrical engineering degree from MIT. Displaying some serious employee loyalty, Edith worked from 1919 until 1995 at General Electric, becoming a salaried electrical engineer after just 2 years of employment. And this was a really big achievement for women at this time. In 1921, she received her first patent for the Clark calculator, a device that was used to solve electric power transmission line issues. She went on to teach electrical engineering at the University of Texas for 10 years, making her the first female professor of electrical engineering in the United States. If you want to go to the next slide, Wendy. So for Stephanie Kolek, I have that you've probably heard of Kevlar. It's a stiff synthetic material 5 times as strong as steel. Because of its resistance to corrosion and flames, it is the main element in the production of bulletproof vests, as well as a whole range of everyday products, including safety helmets, camping gear, snow skis, and cables. We have Stephanie Kolek to thank for this super strong material. She's one of the first female research chemists. Aside from the discovery of Kevlar, Kolek is also the recipient of 17 US patents for her other research efforts. Kolek died peacefully on June 18th this year, 2014, at the age of 90, likely with the comforting knowledge that her discovery went on to help save thousands of lives. Now we have Emily Roebling. She is evidence that behind every good man stands a great and gusty woman. Roebling never planned on becoming an engineer, only that she is credited with being at the helm of one of the biggest feats of engineering of her time. She is best known for her role as chief engineer during the construction of the Brooklyn Bridge, completed in 1883. Her position came about when her husband, who was in charge of the bridge's construction, became ill and bedridden. Taking one for the team, she assumed the role of first woman field engineer and became responsible for the day-to-day project management, relaying the information from her husband to the workers and carrying out her own studies of technical issues, materials, stress analysis, constructions, and calculations. And then we have Heidi Lamar, who was an Austrian-American actress, inventor, and film producer. She was a part of 30 films in an acting career spanning 20 years and co-invented an early version of frequency hopping spread spectrum. During World War II, she learned that radio-controlled torpedoes, which was an emerging technology in the naval war, could be easily jammed and set off course. She thought of creating a frequency hopping signal that could not be tracked or jammed.
So now let's talk about Margaret Hamilton. She's personally my favorite. So she developed an on-flight board software for NASA for the Apollo program. In this picture, she's standing next to a stack of program listings, which is how they used to record all their data or all their code back in the day from the Apollo guidance computer. The software was designed to recognize error messages and ignore low priority tasks. So in other words, the software was built in a way to detect when there was a hardware problem and that the software was compensating for it. Next, we have Dr. Gladys West. She was an American mathematician known for her contributions to the mathematical modeling and shape of the Earth. Her work is on the development of the satellite geodesy models that were eventually incorporated in global positioning systems, or others known as GPS. And then there's Dr. Ellen Koa, and she was the first Hispanic woman to go to space when she served on the 9-day STS-56 mission aboard the Space Shuttle Discovery in 1933. Next, please. So some award-winning women who won the Nobel Prize in 2020 include Emmanuel Carpenter and Jennifer Doudna, and they're both American biochemists of the University of California at Berkeley. and were awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for the development of a method in genome editing. And then there is Andrea M. Ghez, who shared the Nobel Prize in Physics with Roger Penrose and Reinhard Genzel for their discoveries relating to black holes. Ghez and Genzel were awarded 1/2 of the Nobel Prize for the discovery that a supermassive black hole and most likely governs the orbiting of stars in the center of the Milky Way, which is really cool. So, next slide, please.
So here are just some statistics for the academia context. Some of them might be discouraging, but they're just there to make you aware of what's out there, but they're not there to discourage you. They're just there to make you aware. So male students are more likely than female students to take engineering courses, 21% versus 8% of females. And they're also more likely to enroll in AP Computer Science. And in addition, like there's also an advanced course taking. Female students are slightly more likely than male students to take advanced biology, but then they're also slightly less likely to take advanced physics. So for some reason, female students are more likely to go for biology rather than in physics. Males tend to prefer physics. Those are just statistics out there. And in science course taking, Black female students, so it's actually the opposite with Black female students, they're more likely to take at least one advanced science course than their male counterparts. And the same pattern follows with minority women, who are awarded 12.6% of bachelor degrees in science and engineering, 7.8% of master's degrees in science and engineering, and 5% of doctorate degrees in science and engineering in 2016. Now, here, these statistics are for the professional background. So in 2016, there were 200,000 women who graduated with STEM degrees. And this is a huge increase, 43% increase specifically since 2009. And 11.5% of those employed in science and engineering were women of color in the United States of 2017. So I guess this is an encouraging statistic. Not all of them are there not all of them are discouraging. And then 29% of those employed in science and engineering were women in 2017, and despite accounting for over half of the college-educated workforce. So there's obviously some inequality there. And women in computer engineering and science occupations were paid 80.7% of men's annual median earnings in 2018 in the US. The wage gap is there, it's real. But again, this shouldn't be discouraging. Things are happening to alleviate that. And about 15% of women were CAO or prominent board members in STEM companies in 2016.
So some examples of discrimination are, according to a study done in 2017, all engineering and computer occupations, women earn anywhere from 86 to 94% as much as their male colleagues. This percentage varies with each discipline, but electrical engineering and aerospace engineering has the largest difference. The study was done by the US Census Bureau, and for more information about the study, please visit research.swe.org. Women also make up about 20% of the engineering graduates, but it is estimated that nearly 40% of women who earn degrees either quit or never enter their profession. It's incredibly important, especially in times like these, to support groups that need to be heard. By being here, you're being an advocate and supporting one another's differences, interests, and goals. Identifying as any other gender like man or non-binary is just as important to the cause as it is to have allies. We live in times where social norms are changing very quickly, and we're really glad and happy that you're here to listen to us. Next slide, please. So ways you can help are ask questions about a career you're interested in, especially if it's in STEM. Always be open to new information and be patient with yourself when you don't understand the material right away. Support your friends who are in STEM, volunteer for an organization that you care about, and always say yes to new technical challenges. Next slide, please. So that basically concludes our presentation for today. Now we'll introduce our panelists, who are Nicole Pedersen, who is a regulatory affairs specialist at Abbott, Semene Bernousi, who is a material engineer at Medtronic, Gara Al-Sultai. I'm so sorry for butchering any of your guys' names, but she's a civil engineer, student here at CU Denver. Paige Garbett, who is a mechanical engineer at Tesla. So Nicole, take it away.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to be here and be able to share with you my experiences, and hopefully I can learn something from you all about how to be a better role model for women who are interested in STEM as well. So with that, I am a recent graduate from The Ohio State University, and as my bio says there, I graduated with a dual degree in biology and strategic communication, as well as a minor in business. And shortly after graduating, I started my career with Abbott as a regulatory affairs specialist within Abbott's medical device regulatory affairs development program, which is a really exciting program. It's a 3-year rotational program in regulatory affairs. And so each year is a different rotation that you get to experience a different medical device business unit within Abbott, whether that be diabetes care, vascular, structural heart, neuromodulation. There are so many experiences for you to work with different products, different teams, have great opportunities for mentorship, and to travel as well and live in different cities. So for anyone who is interested in pursuing a career in STEM, but is also hoping to travel, to have a lot of cross-functional communication and be able to use business and communication skills as well, regulatory affairs is a great career. And I hope to be able to talk a little bit more about why I became interested in regulatory throughout my time in my introduction. So with that, I began my career at Ohio State, my academic career, as a strategic communications major. And I initially wanted to go into public relations and marketing. So I did a lot of writing for different companies about how to best promote their products and their services in the media. And I did a lot of social media planning. But ultimately, I couldn't really see myself doing that long term. And about the same time, there was a member of my family who was diagnosed with breast cancer. And just seeing this person who was so important to me go through that experience and accompany her through treatment and diagnosis, and ultimately her beating her cancer diagnosis made me want to really contribute to the scientific community and the advances that were being made to save people's lives. So I decided that maybe a career in science would be a better long-term fit for myself. And so I began searching for career paths that were a fit to my desire to be a part of science, but also that could draw upon the communication and the business skills that I had developed as a part of my educational career at Ohio State as well. And how I found out about the regulatory affairs field was actually through an extracurricular that I took at Ohio State. It was a public affairs class, and I was doing a research project about how the medical device field was regulated. And regulatory affairs is ultimately a profession that is a really key function at a lot of companies that manufacture highly regulated products like medical devices, drugs, cosmetics, foods, veterinary products. And we help to ensure that those products are safe and effective for public use, and that those products are meeting the laws and regulations of the markets in which they are sold. So it's a key business function, and it plays on a lot of those skills that I mentioned. It allows you to keep learning every day in science, as you really need to understand the products that you're working with and the science and technology that they utilize to diagnose, treat, and prevent these different medical conditions. But you also need those communication and business skills to work with agencies like the FDA to prove to them why those devices are safe and effective. And there's a lot of collaboration that goes back and forth between industry and government agencies to really make sure that these products are fit for public use. So it has been a wonderful experience, in my opinion. And I think regulatory affairs is such a lucrative career for anyone, not just women that are interested in pursuing science, as it has really allowed me opportunities, as I mentioned, to learn every single day, to utilize the skills that I have built throughout my academic career, to collaborate with a lot of people who have different backgrounds than myself, as you are often collaborating with engineers who make the devices, as well as process and manufacturing engineers who work in the manufacturing plants that build our devices, or with the clinical team that are running clinical studies to test our devices. So you really do have a lot of wonderful opportunities. And so regulatory affairs is a great career path for someone who is interested in a career in science, but maybe not one of the more mainstream fields that many of you are probably familiar with. If you're not interested in being a doctor or working in a lab, at least what was my first impression were that those were some of the only opportunities that were available in science, which is absolutely not the case. So I really just hope that from my experience, you're able to take away that it is okay to stay open to new ideas and experiences, and to change your path and pursue something new if that's where your passion really lies, and to stick with your purpose. I know we talked a little bit about imposter syndrome, and my unconventional background at times made me question if I really fit in science, or if I was meeting people's expectations. And so what really helped me to stick through that and to pursue my goals was reminding myself of why I was there. And that was ultimately to have a positive impact on patients and to keep learning in science and be able to contribute to those amazing advancements that are really helping to save lives out there. So with that, I will turn it over to the next panelist, but thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Nicolette. Next up is Semine.
Hi, everyone. I hope you hear me okay. Okay, sounds good. So my name is Semine Vernusi, and I started engineering about 6 years ago, and then the start of my career, I was a material engineer, and then I decided to change my career to get into health industry. That's why I came to US and started another degree in mechanical engineering to find my path into health industry. It was really good for me to get involved with SUI and become like a graduate coordinator with SUI and find more opportunities in engineering industry. As you know, I'm not sure how many of you guys are engineering background, but what I feel like is it's so many opportunities out there with engineering degree that you can invest on. For me, I choose mechanical engineering because I thought there are so many good positions that I can change my career to. So that's why I chose mechanical engineering. At the time I didn't have any information about bioengineering, but I'm more satisfied with my major, like mechanical, because there's always a shift of interest that you can change your career. So that's why I chose mechanical engineering and chose to be a SUI part, because I wanted to start fresh and find my way in the health industry. So with working in SUI and engaging more as much as I could, in conferences and also networking with people, I find opportunities working with Johnson & Johnson for my internship and co-op. So it was really great opportunities that SUI provided me, and I'm so grateful. And so working with Johnson & Johnson as a new product development in quality engineer, I gained so many experience, like working in like design verification and like how different the department and like in the structure are working together, like as Nicolette said, like regulatory, R&D, quality are all working together to like make sure that the device that is implanted or is worked with or I'm saying like it's implanted in human body or you have the application on for the human health is like good product and in compliance with the regulation and meeting like the ultimate goal, which is the wellness of humans. So it was great opportunity that I gained, and after that, after graduation, I started like applying for jobs, and I wanted to like, I was thinking big. I wanted to like, I just started targeting like big companies because I had the experience with Johnson and Johnson, and I knew that it's possible. And I'm sure, I'm guaranteed that whatever you can think about, you can access and achieve it. I'm foreigner. I have language barrier, but I could accomplish it. So you can too. And I landed a job with Medtronic. It is like based on my previous background as a material engineer, but I can say like it's not separate. I'm really happy that I'm literally seeing the drawing of the devices, and I can understand it better than like other people that are just solely material engineer. And it's really good to have like different background, and and you can combine and have a comprehensive and understanding a device of device, and you can like better achieve your goals. So now that I'm working with Medtronic as a material engineer with the focus on biocompatibility of the devices, I'm working with regulatory, like process engineers, manufacturing sites, so many people. And I say like every time that I communicate with them and network with them, I gain more experience and knowledge about what that side of industry looks like. So, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it is a good fit for me still, because I know that there are more opportunities out there, and it's okay. And I know like having the engineering background, I can do more. I can do like change from quality design and like get more like in different side. That's a really good choice that I made to just choose engineering. I'm not saying like engineering the best. It fits for me. It might fit you. It might not. So don't suppress yourself to just get into the program. Think about yourself and how you're feeling and your character is designed for. What I'm saying, like what helped me to understand what makes me fulfill and satisfied about my program is engaging more in projects. So first, like I get into the mechanical engineering degree in biomechanics track, and with all of the assignments that I was doing, with the project that I was working on, I really get like interested in like human body, in the medical devices that are worked in the body, and like implants. So try to get involved. Try to get involved in projects to see like what is like interesting you. So, and don't restrict yourself to the projects. I mean, to the titles or like different program. Just think about yourself and think about what is better for you and what the best fit for you in the exact moment and now, not future, not past, just now. Okay, I don't know, like if I have time to talk more, or I can just finish it right now.
Yeah, we have a couple more people to go through, but there will be a Q&A session at the end. But thank you so much, Simone. All right, so next up is Gada.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gada Al-Sulaiti, and I'm pretty nervous. I just need to look at my notes. Okay, so I'm a civil engineering major currently at CU Denver. I'm expected to graduate by 2023. And I want to mention that I'm an international student. So one of the struggles that I've faced through becoming a woman in STEM is actually getting to the United States. That was, and it's not the visa and stuff. It's not that. It's mostly, well, back home, people just weren't very supportive of me becoming going into a STEM major, something like civil engineering. People back home are they're very conservative. There's nothing wrong with being conservative. It's just that, I mean, I consider myself being a very conservative person, but it's just that there's no room for growth sometimes. People would restrict themselves. So they would tell me, you're a woman, you know, how can you imagine yourself going into engineering? One day you're gonna get married and have kids, and how do you expect to have a job like that from like 9 to 5 and just leave the kids at home? What are you gonna do? And I just thought that was very sexist. I mean, it's a valid question, but men don't get asked that question. And I mean, they should. I've always seen engineering as something that's something that I've always wanted. And there's actually a saying by a famous Arab scientist. His name is Ibn Khaldun. He once said that engineering is a light in my heart, and I agree with that. I mean, in the beginning, I wasn't so sure I made the right choice. I was struggling in the beginning of my major, and I felt like I wasn't getting the best grades. I wasn't doing so well, and I thought, did I make the right choice? So, like Nicolette was talking about, like, how do you know you've made the right choice in science? Sometimes that's a valid concern, because STEM is not easy. But I've noticed that despite my struggles, despite not doing so well, I was still interested in what I was doing. And it makes me happy. So I just continue to persevere and go on. And like another issue I had was I was always, well, not always, but usually the only girl in class. And this started even from high school. I was the only girl in my physics class. And in my chemistry class, there were only 2 other girls. And by the end of the year, it was just me. And even in some of my engineering classes, there would just be 2 or 3 other girls. It can be discouraging, but I like to look at it as a challenge rather than something that it's an obstacle. I mean, it is an obstacle, but it does not have to, it's all about how you see things. And I like to see things more of a challenge that I can overcome rather than have it just dishearten me. Because if that's how I see things, I think I wouldn't be able to survive my civil engineering major and get my degree eventually. However, despite all those struggles that I just talked about, I think majoring in something in STEM is a lot more rewarding. There are a lot more good things out of it than like the happy things, the good things. I'm sorry, my English is not that good. They outweigh all those struggles. Like, I think it's very worth it. And one thing that I know, like, I feel so happy. I feel like I've made the right choice for once in my life. Despite being, when I was in high school, I was always like, what am I going to do? What should I go into? And my issue is it's not that I did not know what I want to become. I wanted to become everything. I loved everything. I loved art. I loved history. I loved science. I loved basically everything. So I did not know how to narrow it down. And the way I came to choose engineering is I thought, well, what does it need today? And I made it specific to where I come from. So my country, it's still a developing country. And I thought, we're still, like, there's so many projects going on, so many houses being built, so many stadiums being built and things like that. So I thought, looks like civil engineering is something that is needed. and there were scholarships being given out. And I just went for it. There was an opportunity presented to my face, and I just threw myself at it. And I have no regrets. Actually, it's the best thing I've done in my life. And one way that I felt like I really fit in is after I joined SWE. I noticed like after our first meeting, like I listened to all the girls and everyone else talk. I noticed that I'm very similar to literally all of them. We all have similar interests and we have like similar ideas and beliefs. And I just felt like right then and there, I knew that I fit and I knew I made the right choice. And I know that I'm only a sophomore and like there's still a long way to go and I'm not as experienced as everyone else here, but I know that there are good things to come and every obstacle that there is in my way is totally worth it. For example, like I'm actually on an Army scholarship from back home. That's how I got to come here to the US. I'm actually one of the first girls. There's just me and some other girl who have been sent out to the US. So we're the first two girls ever. And again, people back home just were not really supportive of that. Like, except my family, of course, my family is amazing. Like my dad and my mother, they just push me in the direction. They're like, go for it. This is amazing. And my dad did something very similar. So that's how I knew that this is what I want to do. I've always looked up to my father. But people were just always like, this is not right. This is, you're making a big mistake, going to a different country, going into a career that's not traditionally female, whatever the hell that means. But I know I made the right choice because I'm happy and everything I'm doing is super interesting and I want to learn more. The more I learn, the more I feel like I want to learn. And that's pretty much it for me.
Thank you so much, Gada. So I didn't get the info in time, but next up we have Anna Claire Herline. She's a draft designer at Philips Healthcare. So take it away.
Hi, so let me know if my speaker and if you guys can hear me okay. But so I just graduated actually with Lauren from the University of Tennessee with a degree in biomedical engineering. And so I started working with Philips really not too long ago, back in June. And so it's been a whirlwind. I've been working from home, which is very odd. So anybody who just is worried about COVID and everything like that, it's still okay. We are still going with working from home and everything. But I started out in STEM because my dad was a surgeon and he majored in biomedical engineering along with electrical engineering. So that's where I started loving just science and math and like biology and everything like that. But along with, I am so sorry, I'm going to butcher your name. So I'm just going to say the last person who spoke, who said she had struggled in her like first year. It's like I did too. And it really was hard. But what kept me going and what just like reminded me that like this is where I was just the groups I found. So I was heavily involved in SWE and we had a chapter of BMES out at UT. And so I was just heavily involved in those, and that was just great for me to be able to lean on to others for support. Specifically, I got involved in research throughout my time, and I had a professor, which I don't know like anybody else who has experienced just like sexism to a degree of just like terrible, of like people making comments about why are you in this degree? You should be a housewife, like you're more caring focused. But it's like I got a lot of those comments from like a professor specifically, and so it like really sucked. And like I understand it's just like that really got me down, but like I always like kept going back to like the people in these groups, like things like this that always just kept me going, because it was like, you know what, like people have done it before, people are doing it now, I can do it. So that's like what got me through a lot of my time through just college and everything. And so I know I wanted to go into something more cellular and something more bioengineering, but as like my senior year like kept going and kept moving forward, I was applying to jobs, looking at grad schools, and I ultimately went to Philips and I accepted a position as a draft designer. So it's really if you guys walk into a hospital and see where like any Philips equipment like is placed, it's like I do that. I like have to tell them like, oh, this needs to be here and here to fit regulations and like a lot of the back work of it. But it's really interesting to see. I feel I'm like the connection between like a lot of people making and like upgrading the equipment to how people are using it. So it's like I get to see like the application that are like, well, that doesn't work because we're not going to put it there. But I also get to see like, okay, well, this is how it's made. This is how it works. This is how it runs. And so that has been so interesting to me, and I've loved it so far. And I know for me, it was just a breath of like fresh air to be treated like just like I was like really worried of going into industry and just being like one of the only females on my team, but really it has turned out like to be just like so much better than I thought, and I just have loved it so far. And I've only been there for about maybe 4 months, 5 months, 4 months. So it's been great, and I'm so thankful for you guys for inviting me to come speak to this. And so yeah, I don't think I have that much besides just know that you're never alone and that you always have people there for you and to be there for you to rely on, whether it's just like classmates, peers, people in SWE, or events like this that just get you fueled up and fired up to keep on being in STEM and being a woman in STEM. So yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much, Anna. So next up, we have Paige. So take it up.
Hi, everyone. Before I get started, I wanted to say thank you to everyone who put this together, and thank you to all the students who came to attend. This is really exciting for all of us to be able to share our experiences. So thank you for hosting and putting this all together. I know the girls have put in a lot of work on this, so just wanted to throw that out there. I am a battery engineer at Tesla. I have been on my team for about 5 months. I am a mechanical engineer by trade, but the team I work on is very chemical engineering and electrical engineering. And so it's completely different than anything I ever expected I would be in. But if we're talking about women in science, it's as sciencey as you get. I'm mixing chemicals in a lab. I get to wear a whole hazmat suit, and I'm just playing around and learning constantly. The technologies I work with haven't been developed before, and it's very exciting, and that's kind of what fuels me as an engineer. Previous to working on battery engineering, I worked on chassis engineering for Tesla. I'm a car person to the bone. So chassis, suspension, that defines the characteristics of the vehicle. And then I've also worked at Boeing as a flight test engineer, flying the airplanes, testing them to make sure they're safe to fly. And then working at Toyota as a body design engineer. So I've got a few different experiences, dipped my toes into a ton of different things, that sort of thing. My path is interesting as well. I know Nicolette said something a little bit earlier about her background being different than engineering. I actually started in art school, just kind of the reverse cliche of my life. I dropped out of art school to be an engineer and found that there's more art to engineering than there is engineering to art. And so being that everybody can take their own personal skills and apply it to engineering in their own unique way. So I'm gonna make this a little more interactive for you guys. If you could just click the raise your hand button. For those of you sharing your video, you can raise your hand. How many of you guys like going shopping? How many of you guys just like to get your friends together or go with your parents and you just love shopping? You're the purchasing engineers of the company, right? So you're the ones who get to make all the purchases for the company, make sure we have the best technologies and everything within the company. Who are the other artists like me who just sit there and doodle in your notes all day or go home and paint or craft? You guys are the designers of the company. Who are my tinkerers? Who are the people who like taking apart things and putting them back together or making sandcastles, those sorts of things? You guys are the engineers who create products, test products, those sorts of things. And then lastly, how many of you guys are always on your phones, always on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, whatever you all use? How many of you guys just love being on social media and connecting with your friends? you guys are the social engineers who connect with all the other people external to the company. So there's really, and that's just to name a few, there's really every application you can think of to engineering. And so even if you think, oh, maybe I'm not quite fitting what the typical engineer is, you can still take those skills and apply them. And I think that's what makes engineering so beautiful, is this diversity that you can bring to the table. And constant learning. For me, it's always been a constant learning process. I never expected I'd end up as an engineer. I never expected once I was an engineer, I'd be doing chemical battery engineering. I thought I was going to be making race cars, and it turns out it's been a really fun road for me. My experience as a woman, very similar to the rest of the ladies in this group. You're going to get both sides of the coin. You're going to get people who are constantly putting you down. When I got hired by Tesla, I only told one person, and I only told him because he was interviewing for the same team as me, and I wanted to give him tips on his interview. So I only told him I got hired. News spread, I had about 5 different guys come to me that week and tell me, how the hell did you get that? There's no way you deserve that. You're just a diversity hire. You only got hired because they need to fill a quota. And it was hard for me to get over that imposter syndrome. Oh wait, maybe I did only get hired because I was a woman. And it took months of sitting with my manager and him being like, yeah, we could have 2 resumes side by side and you guys could have equal qualifications and we'd choose, you to help boost it, but we wouldn't hire you if you didn't have the qualifications. We wouldn't hire you if you weren't the top of the top. And so you have to constantly remind yourself that these words that other people are saying, it's because they're afraid, it's because they don't understand. And quite frankly, I've been offered to stay at the company. So you really have to be mindful of staying true to your support base. So that's just one story. Throughout my engineering career, I've had a lot of support from professors and that sort of thing who look out for me. I had professors pull me aside and say, hey, if any of the guys give you trouble, you let us know, we'll make sure they're taken care of. I had a rumor of a student that even got kicked out of school once because of something he said to a woman. So you got to be aware of your support base and stay connected. SWE has helped me through that hugely. Just being connected with the other girls and being able to share these experiences and know you're not alone. But all of this, at the end of the day, when you do get past those struggles and when you do realize these people are just, trying to put you down because they're scared or they don't understand, it's when you make it through the end, it's very empowering. And when you realize that you can do it and you're here because you're smart enough, you're good enough, you're powerful enough, it really means a lot. So that's a really quick blurb on that, just because I knew I was running out of time. We only have 2 minutes left, but I'll drop my LinkedIn and email in the chat if you guys have questions after the session that you'd like to ask me, reach out. If you do reach out on LinkedIn, make sure you send a message. I get a ton of requests that I just throw away because I don't know why they're contacting me or who they are. So if you do reach out, just make sure to say something about beeps so that I know why you're contacting me. Thank you again, everyone.
Thank you so much, Paige, for sharing your stories, and thank you to everyone else for sharing their stories. I have been left with a lot to think about, and just, thank you for the encouraging words. Some days are better than others in this field, especially as a woman, and I just really appreciate it. Well, I think that concludes today's meeting. Thank you all, everyone, for coming. Shout out to Sean and Wendy for working with me on this event. Let's do this again. And yeah.
If you are a BEEP student, I did post a survey link in the chat. Please fill that out. It really helps us know if what we're doing is what you guys want to see and whatnot. But thank you to all the wonderful people that came to participate, see the event and to talk. I'm talking to you panelists. Thank you guys so much for coming. We all really appreciate hearing what you guys had to say. I am just, I'm speechless. This was so much great information. I'm just very happy that you guys were able to come out and talk to us about this. But yes, this concludes the event. So thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.